In 2001, Devil May Cry was wrapping up development and was about to release to critical acclaim. Unbeknownst to the development team, their higher-ups had already greenlit a sequel. The team who made the original game were not tasked with making this new sequel. The previous game's director and later co-founder of Platinum Games, Hideki Kamiya, only heard about its existence from being asked for the first game's screenplay by the new director, which led him to believe he was about to be fired. The game was given to another team who were more experienced in making arcade games rather than console titles. This new team had trouble stringing together a coherent project as the deadline came closer. Dante's moveset was not even completely decided upon, let alone programmed and animated into the game. This lack of vision from the development team led to them prioritizing player surveys rather than critically thinking about what the game needed. None of this was helped by the hiring of a director whose identity has, to this day, remained unknown. Man, these things are so neat. Hey Pumpkin, you gotta try these out. Sorry. But get a good look at these things. This is real Smith & Wesson quality type shit. One of the best purchases I've made in a long time. Oh, nothing special. It's just around that time of the year I figured I'd get myself something nice. DMC 2? The DMC reboot never got a sequel. There is no DMC 2. What? When did I do that? Implied it? I implied it? You weren't even conscious for that. Oh, sorry. How did you know I did that? Yeah, that reminds me. How the f*** did you survive that? That blew up in your face. You're getting paid? Well, I sure as hell ain't playing Blood 2. Ah, f*** it, I already have the HD collection, let's do this. Can't believe I agreed to this. When people think of bad Devil May Cry games, they think of the reboot, and I don't blame them. I mean, I played that shit and hated it. The gameplay was nothing special compared to the rest of the series, and the writing was complete dog shit, making for a miserable experience.
And I got a bigger dick.
And also, yes, I downloaded the cutscenes from YouTube because I'm not installing that shit again. All I've heard about this game is that it's unbalanced to high hell, which makes it easy. Now, if that's true, this should not be as bad as the reboot. I mean, if it's easy, then how can it be frustrating, right? They say the reason that this game turned out the way it did was because the development team fundamentally misunderstood what people liked about the first game. To their credit, the game was greenlit before the first game even came out, so they didn't have much time to learn. I have played the first Devil May Cry. I did so while making the video on the reboot, as a matter of fact. And overall, while I liked the gameplay loop, it did seem quite aged to me. Many disagree, which I respect, I mean, it's still a great game, but it also seems like a game that isn't confident in its own gameplay loop. Adding stuff like the first-person underwater sections, the final boss having a Japanese arcade shooter phase, and the airplane section at the end, it gives off the impression that this game doesn't realize how revolutionary it is, and is trying to shake things up in a bid to keep your attention. But in reality, I really like the standard gameplay loop, and get annoyed from all the ways the game tries to be something it's not. But anyway, this video isn't about that game, it's about its successor. One way this game might be more painful than the reboot is the fact that there are 2 campaigns for 2 different characters. Oh well, I'm really hoping the bad balancing makes this easy. I guess we'll find out. One easy way to compare this to the reboot is how difficult they were to record. I had a lot of trouble getting the reboot to record properly. With this, it wasn't as bad. The big problem I found was that tabbing out of this game makes it, without fail, freeze. And don't bother waiting for it to unfreeze, cause that ain't happening. Luckily, the simple solution to this problem is to just not play it in full screen. Because I had the game in OBS on my second monitor and there was no delay, there were extended portions of time where I played the game while looking at it from OBS. Now, how do both games handle writing? If the reboot had really shitty writing, what kind of writing does this game have? None, apparently. All you know at the start is that Dante is working with this woman named Lucia. I'm more used to this name being pronounced as Lucia, but the game says Lucia, so why not? Lucia invites Dante to her homeland, an island existing outside the mainstream in the outskirts of the New World. Vide Mali became a sanctuary for refugees of different races, beliefs, and languages, as well as runaway slaves in the distant past. Despite different cultural roots, all belonged to sects of the same religion, which originated in the Mediterranean, then spread to neighboring regions, and were branded as heretics in their places of origin. Over time, these groups blended into one, the syncretism leading to new religions that worship demons. For divine conflicts, people called for protection by their priests of their cults, who were known as guardians. I'm reading all this after I played through the entire game. None of this was conveyed to me. All that really matters is that there's a villain who's a greedy CEO.
Fucking boots. Me, a god, versus you, a piece of shit.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Basically, this guy wants to summon a powerful demon using 4 ancient artifacts called the Arcana, and putting them together summons the demon, for some reason. The coin in the glass case in the opening cutscene is one of them. Basically, Dante and Lucia need to collect the Arcana to stop this guy from his evil plan, and maybe kill him if he doesn't stop being a prick. And that's overall the plot of DMC2. Out of all the stories told in the rest of the franchise, this one is absolutely the most self-contained. The one that had barely any impact on the series as a whole. Just watch the history of DMC video in DMC5. That thing only spares a few seconds for this game. Even if you are a big fan of Devil May Cry, this is a game you can absolutely skip if you want to. But how does the game play? Well... One difference you'll immediately notice about this game is that levels are much larger and more open, compared to the first game which had much more cramped areas. Now there's a lot of dead areas and levels that don't serve any purpose. This isn't necessarily bad. However, Dante isn't given any faster methods of traversal, unless you want to count spamming the dodge button. Oh yeah, dodge is now its own button. God, I might need to see a doctor. In pretty much every DMC game, dodging is tied to the jump button. You simply lock onto an enemy, and then press the jump button while moving horizontally, and you simply dodge to the side. Here, dodge is given its own button, which I guess makes sense. I mean, the style button was invented in DMC3, so what else do you need that button for? It just took some time to get used to. You can also wall run by dodging near a wall, but this is so context sensitive that I never needed it. It's just something you can do to make yourself look cool while playing Devil May Cry 2. Pretty much all the orbs are here like standard. Red orbs for currency, green orbs heal you, white orbs replenish Devil Trigger, blue orbs increase your total HP, purple orbs increase your total DT gauge, and gold orbs revive you from dying. Though in this game you can only hold one gold orb at a time. That's all pretty standard. What isn't standard is Dante's new sword, Rebellion. Yeah, you know, Dante's signature weapon alongside Ebony and Ivory. This is the game that introduced it, cause he was too busy using Daddy's sword in the first game. And here? It just looks sad, and doesn't have those iconic indents near the blade's tip that make it so recognizable. That got added in DMC 3. Actually, I think those indents are there? You know, if you squint hard enough. Speaking of swords, how does the melee feel in this game? Overall, slower and less responsive than in DMC 1. I wasn't expecting much, and contrary to popular belief, I do find that melee attacks do more damage than your guns in most instances, but you'll soon see why the latter is used so much more. The combos have been switched up. Most of the games have delayed button combos that allow different moves to branch off the same ones. So either you press a button consistently to make you do one series of moves, or you press once, wait a split second, then continue to press to get a different series of moves. This game doesn't have that, and I know there's an asterisk. I see it too, I'll address it later. Instead, this game has directional combos, where you do different moves at different points in the combo based on the position of your left joystick. Now, I am used to special moves that only happen if you move your left joystick in a certain way. Stinger, High Time, all moves that have always been in the series. But this game asks you to change the direction in the middle of a combo. It's not as fulfilling and there isn't as much as you can do with it as, say, the delayed button presses of the other games. I didn't bother learning it and just stuck to the regular combos, High Time, his air combo, which he doesn't kick in for some reason, Helmbreaker, and Stinger. What the f***? What in God's name did they do to Stinger? It looks like shit and is so slow. Compare it to the other games. It looks so much worse. In the other games, Stinger is a move that you can accidentally spam just from how useful it is, how fast it is. Here, if I wanted to dodge this, I could take a nap because that shit ain't getting here till tomorrow morning. It's so underwhelming. To summarize, Dante's melee attacks in this game never make him feel like a sword master. He feels more like a fencer, slow and methodical. He still has his classic moves like Million Stab and Round Trip, but they're locked behind Devil Trigger, Jesus. Oh, and he also has other swords, but they all have identical movesets and just different stats. I never use them. Hell, I barely needed to use Rebellion. You know why? If there's one thing you should take away from this video, it's my first encounter with enemies in the entire game. Spot the issue? The whole appeal of the series is mixing together both melee and ranged combos for long, extensive, stylish attacks. And guns play a big role in that. However, they've never dealt that much damage in the series, because you don't need to aim them. Just press the button and Dante automatically shoots the enemies. So to balance that, your guns are never the main source of damage, and always play second fiddle to the melee weapons. Because, think about it, if your guns actually did a lot of damage, then why would you ever risk going into melee range of the enemies? Yeah, I can think of a reason, getting bored of pressing square. And not only do your guns deal a lot of damage in this game, but they launch enemies by themselves. Sure, in other games, Ebony and Ivory can keep enemies launched for an extended period after you've already launched them, but you usually need a melee weapon to get them up there in the first place. Now here I just start unloading my mags into this guy and he just starts floating. So not only do your guns safely deal damage to enemies without taking any risks on your own part, but they can completely immobilize them too. Oh my god. Now, I know the simple question you're going to ask. Pybro, is Devil May Cry 2 easy? To which I say, it's pretty much on the level of DMC 3 and 5's easy mode, and I'm playing on normal. The hardest DMC game I've played is probably the original, but that's only because the final few levels gave me a hernia. Think about it like this: the terrible balancing of this game gives Dante an easy way to deal damage at very little risk. But as Shakespeare famously once said, what goes around comes around. Almost all encounters with standard enemies are trivial and take very little effort, but the bosses are where you see the poor balancing from the developers come back to bite you in the ass. And this game has a lot of f***ing bosses. Speaking of smaller standard enemies though, one small detail in this game added is that every enemy, no matter what, has a health bar. Fine addition, I guess, although the later games make things more ergonomic as the lock-on icon also acts as the enemy's pseudo-health bar. Oh yeah, this game has lock-on. It's weird. It took a little bit of time to get used to because it wasn't obvious at first, but soon I started to realize that I was locking onto enemies even when I wasn't pressing the lock-on button. And the enemies Dante chose to lock onto were sometimes suspect. I've got this footage paused. I'm gonna give you a second to guess which of these enemies Dante chooses to lock onto. Why, it's this off-screen enemy, of course. Yes, this game has an auto lock-on, the only time in the series we've seen something of this nature. In other games, you can play without lock-on, but it doesn't get you far. Not being able to lock on means you're not able to walk backwards. And if you're not able to walk backwards, how are you able to do a move like high time without instead just walking back towards the camera? Lock-on means that you don't have to aim your melee hits. Instead, you're always facing the closest enemy, or whatever enemy you've set the lock-on onto. And that last part is key, because you still have the freedom to easily switch what target you've set to. Whereas here, it's not like you can't, but it's more finicky. And the fact that this game makes you lock on whenever an enemy is around is annoying because it's not always the enemy that's closest to you. Many times in this game, I'd try and do an attack on a pretty close enemy only for Dante to turn around and do the move in a different direction because he's locked onto an enemy that's like 2 miles away. It's as if he's saying, no, I want to fight that one. It's really annoying and sloppy. My solution, the square button. The lock-on system in this game isn't great, but hey, at least it has lock-on. Ain't that right, DMC Devil May Cry? That's pretty much how the game plays, but what about everything besides the controls?
Please, deal with Arias and his master for us.
Looks like it's your lucky day.
The first couple levels are very simple and basically uneventful, except for this part. What the f*** am I looking at? I mainly spent this time trying to understand how the controls were handling. Another weird quirk about this game is that Dante has access to all of his moves immediately, and with the absence of style switching, that means the things that Dante can do with Rebellion and Ebony and Ivory is already available to you right from the start. Going to a divinity statue shows you how you simply level up each weapon's damage, which is kinda lame. It means you never really feel any difference in how Dante is played from the start of the game to the end, unlike say Nero in DMC 5, who's fucking useless at the start of the game, but becomes quite fun when you have all of his abilities. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that Nero isn't fun to play until you beat the game. But here, Dante just feels stale, and that never changes. Combine that with my previous complaints about how slow Dante's moves are, and how he locks onto enemies that are off screen, makes you feel like you're playing DMC 3 Dante, except he's drunk. It gets funnier when the game wants to test me. There's this floor is lava stuff at the start of the 3rd level. At this point I wasn't using the dodge button, because I still wasn't used to it, but this part requires you to spam it, otherwise you'll get hurt. Cool, yeah, keep trying to justify it to me. Immediately afterwards we have the first boss, Orangura. Damn near every boss in this game has a long ass name, and it's only now that I'm writing the script do I realize why it's like this. Get this, almost all of the bosses' names are in Latin. Jesus, Capcom, you think it's so fucking clever, don't you? So because of that, we have such classic boss names as Orangura, Jokat Gulm, Nephastoris, Furia Taurus, which means Fury of the Bull, and here I thought they were obviously gonna name it Skunk Bug. I have more. Tartarussian, Noctvateran, Tatubesu, and Trismagia. Just you chuckle fucks wait for me to talk about Trismagia, I swear to God. For how weak most enemies are in this game, most bosses are absolute sponges, and attack so frequently that opportunities to get in close are risky and rare. Some fights you're vulnerable when close to the boss, and some other fights you can't even get close at all and you can only shoot them. It's intentional. You may find it hard to believe, you may think it's just incompetence, but I guarantee you it's intentional. With all that being said, Orangura isn't that bad. He's your typical bruiser boss, and while he's a little tanky, overall nothing I can't handle. Although another thing I want to talk about when it comes to the bosses is their context. In DMC 1, the bosses were subordinates and generals of the Demon King Mundus. They're on Malay Island because they are helping Mundus open the portal to the human world. In DMC 3, Sparta shackled many powerful demons in the Temen Negru to act as trials to beat for anyone trying to reopen it. Most of the bosses in DMC 3 are these demons. In DMC 4, there aren't that many bosses that are purely just demons, but the ones that are there because there are a bunch of open portals to the underworld in Fortuna. And in DMC 5, Virgil opens a portal with the Yamato to make the Quailof grow, and basically a bunch of powerful demons get mixed up in it to try and get power for themselves. What I'm saying is, in all these games there is context as to why the demons you encounter are where they are. Orangura just bursts through the ceiling. Arius is trying to open a portal to the underworld, but that doesn't explain why the island is overrun with demons, and what happened to everyone living on it barring Lucia and Matier. Who am I kidding, it's probably in the manual. Another thing this game does are these gem things that allow you to alter what you can do in Devil Trigger. So one lets you fly, another increases your movement speed, it can improve your healing factor or your damage. Not a bad idea. It would be pretty redundant in future games, but it works well enough here. There's another set of gems that changes the element of your Devil Trigger attacks. I have no clue how this changes anything. Next boss, Jokat Gulm, absolute bitch, has a really annoying pattern you need to learn to dodge, and their weak spot is usually blocked by their arms. And because of the poison their head spits out, that means it's too dangerous to get in close, so just shoot them instead. This is a pattern you'll see a lot in this game. Then a shutter opens up, and that's awfully convenient. Next mission, Mission 5. Let me tell you people, how many bosses do you think are in this one level? 1? 2? Try 4. The 2 wolves at the start, Orangura's here again for some reason, the infested tanks, and the infested chopper. First off, the wolves, unfinished. Look at how they move, look at it. Then they join up with this guy and this guy. We'll see more of him later, but for now he just f***s off. Then Orangura shows up again as just a regular enemy in a more complex area, thanks. Then the infested tanks. They don't move, they just fire their turrets with either rockets or flamethrowers. I can just walk past them, but no, the game says I have to defeat these things. Speed the footage up. What's next? Oh, you. The most scripted fight in the game. They even have the gall to put a timed platforming section in this. Also, it has a health bar, but ignore that. You kill it prematurely, it'll just come back for the next section. You can only kill it once you get to the top of this platforming section. And guess what? It's too high off the ground to attack it with your melee weapon. You know what that means? And guess what mission 6 is? Another boss that's too far away and too dangerous up close to reliably hit with melee attacks? Woo! The second phase would be better as it's actually close enough that I can get melee hits on it, but it moves around so much that it isn't easy. Then Dante looks up at a helicopter. The helicopter goes to an oil rig, and the next mission, somehow Dante has followed it. What, did he have a boat? You sometimes find these hordes of small enemies that only have 1 health, so you just do this. Oh yeah, thanks for cutting it short. If that cutscene went on for a second longer, I was gonna have a hernia. The cutscene for the next mission just continues it anyway.
Well, what have we here?
Do you have to ask?
Please do, the writing in this game is so bare bones.
Maybe another time.
Alright, let's do this, Skunk Bug. While it is fun to go in for melee combos, he really likes to spam this Cyclone move that pulls you in closer, meaning, once again, it's easy to just stand far away and shoot. Combine that with green orbs around this arena and you have a pretty brain-dead fight. But don't worry, it gets worse. Like a level with a time limit. Well okay, 12-minute time limit, I mean that's pretty lenient, I'd imagine we'd be fine. Let's go into this room. Grab an amulet, a sword I won't use. Nice. Where do I go from here? Well, there's still enemies here, so I guess I need to clear them out. Okay, maybe what I did was dumb, but I guarantee the level design is dumber. The door to the next part of the level is right here. It's right here. Well, you don't see it? It's right here. Right there in front of you. Bullshit. And I'm glad I watched the tutorial because there's more bullshit to be had at the end. You come to the final room and you see a plane with the back hatch down and you think, okay, we'll escape on the plane. Doesn't really make sense realistically, but this is DMC, so yeah, it works. And then you go inside the plane and find an RPG weapon, which like, cool, but how do I get out of here? Well, you walk inside the plane, this happens. You go back outside, realize that the plane has moved forward and crashed into a giant fan, creating a small crack, and that is how you escape. Yeah, of course, how else would I do it? There's pretty much nothing to the next mission except an annoying boss. Which one is this one? That one. Giant moth that stays in the air, meaning you have to shoot it until it dies. I can feel it setting in. It does nothing besides spawning larvae that digs into the ground and comes at you like a Hummer coming at a child crossing the road. And when these larvae attack, they eat you for like 10 seconds, draining your health. As far as I know, there is nothing I could do to break out of that attack. I just had to sit there and wait. If there is a counter, I didn't find it and I spammed all the buttons. Really slow, annoying fight. And even after the moth bitch is dead, you have to kill the remaining larvae. Also, remember how I was talking about the context of bosses appearing before? Well, let me ask you, where the hell is this place? I'll even play the full introductory cutscene. That's it. We're just teleported to this random place. Next mission. Oh god. Oh my god. Oh, this is so undercooked. You can see it with your own burning retinas. Well, let's hope the boss is better. Oh great, it's the prick with the wolves. The first thing you'll realize about Bolverk is that he has so much knockback in his hits that it launches you into the wall of whatever direction you're sent in. And the fact that you have to deal with the wolves too makes this fight even more chaotic and annoying. Luckily, the wolves are still pretty useless. I just tried to get rid of them first so that afterwards I could focus on the main man himself. He fights a lot like Dante, using fast sword moves, which would be great if you could parry his hits like Cavalier Angelo in DMC5. That's one of the best boss fights in the series, because you can parry his moves with your own sword, use Trickster to dodge his attacks, or use Royal Guard to deflect his attacks. In DMC2, you cannot parry, you cannot use Trickster, and you cannot use Royal Guard, so have fun, you fucking c***. Mission 12 starts, and... What the fuck is this? Is this meant to be a boss? Like an actual demon thing? Whatever. Eventually I realized that you need to balance staying under it and then jumping up and hitting whatever the fuck these things are. And then it's dead.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yes. Now we can stop Arius' ambition.
Whatever.
Jesus Christ, Dante, you're killing me here. Oh no, a boss that throws a spiky ball on a chain. Whatever will I do? See you later, brokey.
It seems you have obtained the final arcana.
It's from your daughter. What are you doing, Granny?
There is one more thing I need to ask of you, son of Sparta. My daughter went to face Arius all by herself.
How? I saw her like 5 minutes ago!
Please, take these and save Lucia.
If it's heads. Your lucky streak continues, Granny.
Okay, damn lady, the situation isn't that grim. You may be wondering, what the fuck is happening in terms of the story? Things are just kind of randomly occurring. The reason for this is that you'll get all of Lucia's context when you play her campaign. Or at least that's what you'd expect. And so Dante comes in and gives Arius all 4 pieces of the Arcana, cause... fuck it, why not at this point? And we have our first fight with Arius, and he is a total pushover. For how many damage sponges there are in this game, and how tanky they are, like being literal tanks, Arius goes down real easy. Sure, he has some attacks and summons enemies, but that doesn't matter if I can beat him in 90 seconds flat.
I must obtain the power of Argosax.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Argosax is one of the many demon kings in Devil May Cry, a title also held by Mundus, Pluto, and even briefly by Virgil in his Urizen form. It's exactly what it says it is, King of the Underworld, and is very much a might makes right title only given to those who conquer their way to the top. Argosax never controlled all of the Underworld, only around half of it during a time of civil war, where the other half was controlled by Mundus, the main villain of the first game. So I guess he was technically the only king of the Underworld during this game, but since this game takes place only a few years after the first, safe to say Argosax didn't have that much time to make use of it. In fact, Dante makes such a mess of things for the Underworld that by the time of DMC5, the only reason Virgil, or I guess Urizen, was able to establish himself as king so easily and quickly was because the Underworld was in such a state by this point that the title was basically vacant during the events of DMC4. Of course, we all know that Virgil didn't give a shit about being king, and he just wanted to beat Dante. And that's the thing that ties all of the Demon Kings together. Pretty much every single one we know of has been either defeated or killed by Dante. Mundus was sealed by Dante, Argosax was killed by Dante, Virgil was killed by Dante, but that was before Virgil became a Demon King. Which sounds weird saying it out loud, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Arius wants the power of the Demon King Argosax because evil, and then he explodes and Dante escapes with Lucia. So now Arius has all of the arcana necessary to open the portal. Nice going, dipshit. Lucia's the same, she's like, why the fuck did you do that, you moron? And he's like, yeah, we'll get him next time. So now the underworld and the human world are phasing through each other. Shit's fucked. Next mission is a reskin of the first level, but we need to find 3 hidden switches. Cool. I had to look up the location of the first one. I don't know how you expected me to find that. Whatever, we get the other 2, go through this door, hit the eye for some reason. What the f*** are you doing here? I killed you! Yeah, for those of you who don't know, this is a boss from the first game. You can tell because you can say his name out loud without making your furniture start floating. And honestly, Phantom fights the exact same way he did in the first game, except now you have much more space and OP guns. And if you know anything about Phantom, it's that he really doesn't like Devil Trigger. And the same is true here. The next mission is really uninspired. It's just killing a group of enemies around the portal before time runs out. Makes me wonder why we had missions with 3 bosses and yet also missions as short as this. Next mission starts out with you being assaulted by goats. The goat demon things are probably the hardest common enemies in the game. They're not that tanky, but they are fast, both in their movements and their attacks, meaning you have to spend most of your time trying to dodge them. Then you make your way up Arius's tower. You know, the tower we've gone to the top of once before off screen. Yeah, now we need to fight through it. I unlock these submachine guns. They're alright. They make the game more brain dead, which is good because... Oh, hey man, how you doing? It's the exact same fight as before. He might have been a bit more annoying, as well as the camera. Other than that, he's fucking dead. Get lost in these hallways for a bit before making it to the top floor, into Arius's office. What the fuck?
The son of Sparta, you must repent your sins.
Don't speak. Just die.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to hell. You notice how I haven't died much? Maybe a lost gold orb here and there? Well, Trismagia killed me like 4 times. And you notice how he is all the way in the distance, meaning the only way to attack him is to fucking shoot him. And it was during this fight that I realized something. It's full auto. It's fucking full auto. To which you may say, Pybro, you're using submachine guns, of course they're full auto. No. Every gun is full auto. Ebony and Ivory are full auto. And the only reason it took me this long to figure it out is because no other Devil May Cry game does this. In every other game, you press the gun button once, Dante fires once. You want him to fire again? Press it again. Which is one of the things that makes Devil May Cry feel so intense to play. You can't just lazily hold down the gun button to make Dante fire rapidly. You have to spam the button. But here, you can absolutely hold down the button. Who cares? When this game came out, people joked that it was the best third-person shooter of 2003, but I don't even think it's a joke anymore. This literally is a third-person shooter. Trismagia, right. The tankiest boss in the game apart from maybe the final one. Splits into 3 heads and you can only deal damage to one of them. And by damage, I mean I'm gently scratching them. The 3 heads do some attacks that have some horribly janky hitboxes, and then they morph back into 1 head and do an attack that's so large, I think I dodged it only once, and I was playing this boss fight for 20 minutes. Eventually though, I figured out the strategy. Step 1. Equip the amulet that increases damage while in Devil Trigger. Step 2. Shoot him while he's in the 3-headed form, but mainly focusing on dodging attacks and building DT. Step 3. Wait for him to morph into his true form. Step 4. When he does, activate Devil Trigger. Step 5. Unleash everything you've got while they're in that form. Step 6. Repeat until they're dead. I'm going insane. How are you doing, Arius? Yeah, you and me both, mate. I think he's finally realized he's in a shitty game and has just gone mad from it. Just as a reminder, this was his voice the last time we saw him.
You cannot win. Someone is holding you. What? What's going on?
Is there a problem?
You! Is that the medallion? You switched it?
Okay, so Dante switched out the Arcana coin, the one we see in the first cutscene of the game, with his own coin that he carries around. Cool plan, doesn't make sense and you'll see why, but first we gotta kill Arius.
King? Yeah. Here's your crown.
A crown goes on your head, not in your head, stupid. Can we get a hashtag dumbass Dante in the comments, please, and thank you? So the day is saved. Lucia wants Dante to kill her for reasons we'll get into later. Arius is dead. But before they can deal with this though, the portal to the underworld opens. The portal opens. Despite the fact that the 4 Arcana were never brought together, the portal still opens. How? How did it do that? What? Did Argosax think Dante's coin was real too? So now it's time to decide who gets to go in and deal with Argosax before he can cause problems.
Let's leave it to fate. Heads, I go. Tails, you go. See you around.
I swear to God, that coin's gotta be weighted or something. All that's left is to fight with Argosax, who's a blob made up of heads of the previous bosses for some reason. They all basically repeat 1 attack each. It's really lame. You can cheese almost the entire fight by standing in the right spot. It just takes ages because this boss is the tankiest in the game. The only thing left is the core. The despair embodied. Did that Demon King just transition? Fair enough. The final form is pretty good, probably the most well-designed boss in the game. It has some bullshit moves, it's fast, but not so fast that you can never get an opportunity to make your own moves. It also doesn't have a ton of health, meaning it's overall a fast-paced fight that doesn't drag on. Either it goes down quick, or you do. but I come out on top. Since when do you have charge shot? Dante drives off on his motorcycle and stays in hell, and it's implied he comes back later to the human realm, but whatever. We're done. Nah, I'm just kidding. The good news here is that while Dante only had 18 missions in his campaign, lower than the standard 20 in the series, Lucia only had 13 missions. God, this was rushed. They basically give you 2 copies of the game with each suited for each character. Whatever. First room and I'm already confused. It's the final area in Dante's first mission. There are no enemies, but the door is locked. So after wandering around for 5 minutes, I look up a guide and find out that you need to get a set number of red orbs before you can leave. If you interact with the door beforehand, it actually tells you this, but I didn't do that because, well, there's a giant hand on the door that hurts you if you get near it. You probably think this whole get a set number of red orbs before you leave is a tutorial for later. This is the only time in the game it asks you to do this. The entire first level is basically retracing your steps from when you played the level as Dante. As for how Lucia plays, she has faster attacks, making her a bit more useful with melee attacks, and instead of firing guns, she throws daggers, which really only means there's a slight delay from when the attack hits. This isn't like later DMC games where there are huge differences between characters. Lucia is very similar to Dante functionally, though the execution of her moves makes her a bit more flexible generally. Or maybe it's just I had more experience on the controls compared to playing Dante. Watch this. These enemies respawn every time you touch this platform. You just have to platform up this tower and the game teaches you that you can fly in Devil Trigger. It's teaching you all this stuff because it's not designed for you to play as Dante first, even though most people would. The game makes it so that whichever character you want to play first is up to you. Anyway, you go to the top of this place only to find this prick again. Actually, it's not that prick again, it's his brother. I'm not kidding. The guy we fought before was called Plutonian, and this guy is called Tartarussian. They both go down like bitches. Lucia's fast attacks makes it easy to stun lock the guy. Even when he knocks me down, I'm back in dealing damage because of Devil Trigger. Still, this is only the second mission. Can't give him too much credit. Third mission. This looks familiar. Yeah, you do the first 2 missions thinking it's a shake-up of what Dante did in his first mission, and then you go into this cool tower, and then the next mission is the exact same thing Dante did. This should be a foreboding warning. The only difference now is that instead of fighting Orangora at the end, we have to fight Jokat Gol. And would you believe me when I say they're just as annoying as before? The other thing I'm noticing is that Dante's campaign had way more cutscenes, whereas most of the stuff I've seen in this campaign is just reused from Dante's. Instead of that decent cutscene of Dante riding a bike, we just get a door opening. Where could this door take us? Why the fuck not? Oh, here's Orangora. Next, the tanks. Oh god, please don't tell me we're fighting the chopper again. No actually. The level ends right after the tanks. And now we're back on the oil rig, though now going through it in a different route. And we unlock a new ranged weapon, the Cranky Bomb.
Come on, Cranky, take it to the fridge!
We get to the helipad and meet up with Arius.
Well, well, it appears that the defect is back.
Defect?
You are my creation.
Liar! Mathieu is my mother.
She merely found you when you were about to be disposed of, and then raised you as a soldier. Is that what you consider to be a mother?
No! I don't believe you.
Look. You have the mark on your shoulder. Proof that you're a mannequin. Kai. That is your real name.
So the whole twist was that Lucia was a soldier made by Arius. Alright, cool. But before we can find out any more, Arius does some spell thing and... fuck. Oh cool, a portal. Where the fuck is this place?
I was created? That's why I have this ability.
What, you're surprised that you're a demon? Bitch, you have Devil Trigger. That's not something a regular human can do. Also, quit standing around and collect that blue orb fragment. Now we go into the water, where none of my weapons work except for the fucking cranky bomb. DMC2? Don't do this to me. You can't do this to me. We go into the next mission. It's the water level. I'm fucking terrified for my life. We have no way to defend ourselves except for that fucking bomb. And remember how I said Lucia's attacks are fast and flexible? Man, if only we could lock onto this thing. Then after that, every DMC fan's favourite pastime, shitty platforming. We unlock the bowgun, a rapid-fire nail gun that works underwater. Oh yes, thank you God, thank you God. You just hold down the fire button, and whatever is in range, Lucia will shoot it until it's dead. It's boring as hell, but fuck me, I'll take it. Finally, the boss of this level. What's it called? That. Fun fact, this is the only underwater boss in the entire franchise. They never tried it again after this. Nah, in all honesty, it ain't that bad. Kinda boring, mainly cause you can't actually deal damage to it most of the time. Yeah, it's one of those. Correction, you can deal damage to it whenever you want. It's just you can only lock onto it when it wants you to. So most of the time you have to manually aim your body to wherever it actually is. I think my point still stands. All you need to do is make sure that whenever it is visible, you're in Devil Trigger and make the most of it. I knew this fight was going to be a whole lot of nothing when it first landed a hit on me and did no fucking damage. And remember, DT heals you, so yeah, no sense of tension or anything, just a roadblock. Then, going into the next level, not much resistance until we get to this shit. It took me so long to get right that it made me think I needed to do something else. Turns out, no, I was doing the correct thing, I just needed to try harder and get it right. What's next? Oh great, this guy. I'm pretty sure everything left is reused from Dante's campaign, except for the final boss. Next fight is with Arius. We sneak into his tower with a disguise, though Arius doesn't buy it for 1 fucking second because... I don't know, he's just clever or some shit. Fight Arius, goes down like a bitch, but just like a Mortal Kombat fight, we still get captured after it. Then Dante saves us, yada yada. We meet up with Mathieu and quickly wrap up Lucia's character when Mathieu basically tells her that found family is more important than blood family. We do that thing with finding switches, although this time they're in different places. Okay, this doesn't even make sense. Phantom doesn't even know who Lucia is. What lore reason is he here? Is he a clone? A resurrection? He doesn't even fucking speak, so we aren't getting any answers out of him because he's fucking dead now. Whatever. Go through the portal, climb the tower, go through the same confusing level again, except this time we don't have to fight Bulwark, thank Christ, but we still have to fight. Okay, well, the good news is that I actually know what I'm doing this time, and while it's still a bitch to get through, I do get through it. And after that, Lucia and Dante are at the bottom of the tower, and Arius is dead. So why did Lucia need to climb the tower? I understand Dante doing it, but what purpose did Lucia serve by doing it? She just fought Trismagia, and that's it, she's at the bottom again. She tries to get Dante to kill her, he doesn't, portal opens, coin flip, Dante goes in. This seems like the end for Lucia's story when suddenly, Mr. Fuckface chimes back in with a new demonic reboot, with some sea sponges on his back like he just visited Bikini Bottom. This first phase is pretty easy. He telegraphs his attacks, making it really easy to dodge them. He's pretty tanky, but with attacks this manageable, it doesn't matter. But then there's the second phase. With a constantly moving area and it being too dangerous to attack up close, I don't even care anymore, man. I just spam all my items in DC until he's dead. And that's pretty much it, among other things. Lucia overall was decent to play, slightly above Dante. Although how much of that was thanks to the fact that her campaign was a measly 13 missions, it may have had something to do with it. People always complain that Virgil never gets his own campaign and it's just Dante's levels repackaged for him. Well, maybe it had to do with the fact that this was the last time they made an original, separate campaign for another character. It was Lucia, and no one fucking cared. Well, I've seen all the levels this game has to offer, but we're not done. There's a secret character, Trish, who literally has nothing to do with this game. I get that they probably wanted to make her playable in the original game, and they just didn't have time to, but that doesn't exactly mean she fits in here. Whatever, it's nice to see a familiar face. Excuse me. Hello? What's that? You're telling me I need to beat the game again on hard mode to unlock her? Sure, I can do that. In fact, I have just the thing for it. Hi, Phantom. Bye, Phantom. I was going to go into this with just an endless red orbs cheat just to see what she was like when fully upgraded. The thing is, it's not like other DMC games where changing characters is usually tied to a separate campaign or even a different save file. In DMC 2, switching from Dante to Trish is more like switching costumes. as you don't start a new campaign and instead just use Trish in your already existing save file. Meaning whatever upgrades I got while in the first campaign, like blue and purple orbs, are carried over here, and upgrading Ebony and Ivory meant that Trish's dual pistols were already upgraded too. Which makes me feel like Trish in this game is more of a costume than an actual separate character. Even when you play as Trish and then go into a cutscene, it just shows Dante instead, which is kinda odd. But whatever, we're nearly at the end, and despite all that I just said, she is in fact different from Dante in terms of her moveset. The biggest difference is that her special moves operate the same way Dante's special moves did in DMC 1. Yeah, you remember that asterisk from way earlier? This is it. It basically means that you could do million stab the same way it's done throughout the rest of the series. Meaning I'm not just using the same basic combos throughout the entire campaign. This instantly makes her an improvement over the two other characters. But this does inadvertently mean that this is a Devil May Cry game where there are 3 different playable characters, and the worst one is Dante. Which sounds like blasphemy in my ears, but that's just me. Nah, but Trish is okay. If I, for some fucking reason, returned to this game, I probably would only play as her. But yeah, just like playing Virgil in the future games, it's basically Dante's levels, or Lucia's levels if you unlock her there, but I'm not doing that because that's 6 fucking playthroughs, repackaged for Trish to play through. And even though Trish is the best character in the game, it doesn't change the fact that the level design is boring and uninspired, and the bosses are still really bullshit. It was kinda easy going through the game again as Trish, mainly because I was already fully upgraded, and now I actually knew what I needed to do in each level. That's it. We've seen all there is to see. I'm done. I'm never playing this game again. I really wanted to end this video being able to say that DMC Devil May Cry is the worst game in the franchise. I really wanted to. I guess because I didn't want to admit that the reboot actually could outdo one of the games from the original series. I didn't want to believe it, but I cannot, in all honesty, say that this game is better. Out of the two, the reboot undeniably has the worst dialogue as well as tone. But for how much the reboot tries and gets wrong, Devil May Cry 2 doesn't try at all. The characters barely say or feel anything. Literal husks compared to the rest of the franchise, including the reboot, which was full of cringe-inducing characters, but hey, at least they were indeed characters. And for as much as I hated playing through the reboot, the gameplay was not the sorest spot. It certainly wasn't good enough to ever make me want to come back once I was finished, and the gameplay mechanics were nowhere near as well designed as the 3rd, 4th, and 5th game in the series. However, there is an undeniable polish that you can find in the reboot that just isn't there in DMC 2. I think the best way for me to put it is like, imagine you were a toddler trying to understand how to play DMC 5. That's what playing DMC 2 is like. The basics of combat are so easy and accessible that you never have a reason to do anything else. And everything else you can do is so situational and unfulfilling that at no point did I ever feel motivated to do them. The guns are overpowered, the sword is slow and clunky with a really boring moveset, mechanics like dodging would be refined more in later entries, and really the only gameplay mechanic that I can think of that this installment added to the franchise as a whole is that ability to shoot 2 enemies at once with your 2 pistols. That's it. There are other things that this game did and added to the franchise, Bloody Palace for example. It was also the first game in the series to feature multiple playable characters, even if all of them do play incredibly similar. And it did introduce the lore of Argisax. Even if you had to dig for it in the manual, it does add on to the story of the underworld and to a lesser extent Mundus. But when people talk about this franchise, there is a reason why they say that this game is completely skippable. Because it is by far the most self-contained story in the franchise. The first game introduces Dante and his general backstory of how Mundus was betrayed by his father and how he got revenge by killing Dante's mother and capturing his brother. The third game introduces Virgil as his own character and why he has conflict with his brother. The fourth game introduces Nero and how he interacts and changes the scope of Dante's life. And the fifth game is about exploring the relationships between these three descendants of Sparta. And that's just the broad strokes. This game adds nothing. Nothing but the idea that Dante was depressed after accidentally killing his brother, but that wasn't even intended by the developers and was just a hotfix to explain why Dante was such a depressing bastard in this game. I wanted to say that a game from this series, one of my favourite video game franchises of all time, couldn't be one of the worst games I've ever played in my life, but it is. There's more that I wanted to talk about, like how this game screwed up the timeline until Devil May Cry 5 came out and fixed everything, but I'm already 18 pages deep into this script. It's time to wrap it up. In conclusion, this game was ultimately a necessary failure, as it would go on to give Hideaki Itsuno the motivation to try and outdo the disaster that he was forced to be tied to at the last second. This would lead to him starting a new project that would eventually become Devil May Cry 3, Dante's Awakening. And we all know how that game basically revived the franchise from being on its deathbed to being a staple of Capcom. And he would go on to direct every game in the series after, barring the obvious. To this day, we still don't know who was the director that came before Itsuno and helmed most of the project. Whoever that was has done a damn good job of keeping it buried. Will we ever know? Do I look like a private investigator to you? I've got no damn clue. But he better make sure he stays hidden now that I've experienced this piece of shit. Can I be paid now? Thank you for this new entertainment piece that you have created. Rest assured that you will be compensated for your work in due time. We wish to let you know in advance that a tool will be sent to your studio to advise you and help you in your next installment of content. We expect you to start preparations promptly. Many thanks, management. What do you know about this? Interesting. Wait, you have an email?